I want to give my NFL Hall of Fame game takeaways between the New York Jets and the Cleveland Browns. I was really impressed, first of all, with DeMarcus Ware's singing ability. When they announced that he was going to be performing the national anthem, I was like, huh? Isn't DeMarcus Ware a singer? It's really a singer out here named DeMarcus Ware. I was like, who the hell is a singer named DeMarcus Ware? And then all of a sudden, they showing DeMarcus Ware singing the national anthem. I'm like, oh, this DeMarcus Ware. And I'm just thinking, damn, this dude is a doggone good singer. He sung the national anthem really well. And the fact that he did it for Demaryius Thomas made it even more fulfilling to listen to. Now, when it comes to the game itself, obviously we got to talk about the star player of this game, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. DTR, shout out to the UCLA Pac-12 alum, DTR, for balling out in the NFL Hall of Fame game, man. And I think with his performance, he probably has opened the door for himself being involved in the backup quarterback competition with Joshua Dobbs. Now, I love Joshua Dobbs, but with the way Dorian Thompson-Robinson played, you got to give him an opportunity to compete for that backup QB spot. It's only right. And Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I don't think his performance was all that surprising to people who really keep up with the draft. If you are somebody who follows the NFL draft heavily, you would know that most NFL draft analysts and experts consider Dorian Thompson-Robinson to be what people like to call a diamond in the rough prospect. That means that Dorian Thompson-Robinson, although he may not be a starting caliber QB right now, he eventually could be molded and developed into a really solid one. He has a really good arm. He's a great athlete. And we saw all that on display in the NFL Hall of Fame game. He had a couple of runs that were really impressive. He had 36 rushing yards. He also had some really nice passes. He was 8 of 11, 82 yards through the air, 7.5 yards per attempt in the passing touchdown, which is really impressive considering that when you play in the preseason, you're playing with guys you don't really have a lot of chemistry or timing with, and most of these wide receivers aren't really good. They can't separate. They can't run good routes. It's just a mess anytime you're trying to have a productive day throwing the football in the preseason from a quarterback standpoint if you're not playing with the ones or the twos. But Dorian Thompson-Robinson made the most of the situation. And even Kellen Mond, I felt like he wasn't too bad neither. But Dorian Thompson-Robinson obviously stole the show. And what was even more impressive was the block that he put on that one Jets defender that led to the Cleveland Browns scoring the touchdown. That shows a lot of heart. That shows a lot of character. And if you're Kevin Stefanski, man, this is one of the kind of players that you want to keep around just because he's good to have in the locker room. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he comes from UCLA under Chip Kelly, who was running a pro-style offense there. So the transition from college to the pros hasn't been that difficult for him. And Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I'm eager to see how he plays in the next preseason game, because in the preseason, normally you will have a hard time finding consistent quarterback play from guys who are backups. If you have a starting quarterback battle, then it's a little bit different. But most of the time, the guys who are competing for the backup quarterback job or the last QB spot on the roster, they don't really have consistent performances week in and week out, because sometimes they may end up having to play with guys who, you know, last week maybe they were on the fourth string. Now they're getting moved up and getting reps with the second string just to see how they look with that unit. You know, it's just really hard to establish a good rapport in the preseason. So for Dorian Thompson-Robinson to have the performance that he did, it was really impressive. The Browns also showed us that they got a lot of depth at running back. Now, I was really disappointed that they didn't unleash Jerome Ford in this game. I would have loved to see Jerome Ford play in this matchup. Jerome Ford has been making a lot of noise so far throughout training camp for the Cleveland Browns, and he's a monster. I feel like he was a reason why Kareem Hunt wasn't brought back. He was their insurance option for Kareem Hunt the whole time as soon as they drafted him last year. But Demetric Felton was really good. He showed pretty good vision. He has a good amount of wiggle to him. And he was averaging over 6 yards per carry. And not just him, but the majority of the running backs for the Browns who got legitimate carries in this game, all of them averaged over 4 yards per carry. John Kelly, 4.2 yards per carry. Hassan Hall, 6.8 yards per carry. That's really impressive because in the preseason, you don't really get great offensive line play, and you don't really have offensive lines that create a lot of gaping holes for you to have success running the football. But the Cleveland Browns had a lot of success with the ground and pound against the New York Jets. Their running back position is really stacked, and it's going to be hard having to make a decision to get rid of any one of these guys if you have to cut one of these guys to make space for another position on the field. But I think that John Kelly really was good. Demetric Felton really impressed me. Hassan Hall was really solid. Now, when we move on to the New York Jets, I was really impressed with their young pass rushers. They have a lot of potential when it comes to what they have at edge rusher. You got Jermaine Johnson, who was a first-round pick last year out of Florida State. Super athletic, has a insane first step. This dude is a crazy athlete. But if you thought that Jermaine Johnson was a freakish athlete, you ain't see nothing when it comes to Will McDonald, who was another first-round pick, but from this past year's draft out of Iowa State. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I kind of forgot a little bit about Will McDonald. I remember around this time last year, going into the 2022 college football season, there were a good amount of mock drafts who had him going in the top 10. And not just were there mock drafts that had him going in the top 10, there were even some mock drafts that thought he could get drafted higher than Will Anderson. Now, obviously, his draft stock kind of fell a little bit because Iowa State wasn't that good, but he was still holding up his end of the bargain. Will Anderson was a monster, but Will McDonald, he was a monster too. And I was really impressed with what I saw out of him last night. I mean, this guy can jump. I mean, the first play he was in the game, he was already humming at the quarterback. I was like, damn. I hit up my guy Artie, scout for Film is Art. I was like, man, you remember Will McDonald? This dude is an insane athlete. I mean, Will McDonald, this dude was moving, fam. He was moving. Please don't let him figure it out. Because if he does, he could be one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. This dude was insane. And the fact that they have him and Jermaine Johnson on the same team is even scarier. Now, lastly, of course, we got to talk about Zach Wilson. Now, I wasn't all that blown away from what I saw out of Zach Wilson because he didn't really have a lot of reps. He only threw 5 passes, and his best pass was a deep ball that went for 57 yards, and that was a really great throw by him. I was really impressed with that throw, but I was a little bit disappointed because I thought he was going to be out there for a little bit longer. I mean, the dude is the backup quarterback, and you just don't want to give up on him already. You brought in Aaron Rodgers with a little bit of hope that maybe him being in the building around Zach Wilson will be able to rub off on him, and hopefully that gives Zach Wilson a little bit more time to improve and he can learn from Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's going to get traded. And for the New York Jets, even if you are looking at, trading Zach Wilson, you would kind of want to give him a little bit more time to show what he can do to make him more appealing for teams who maybe consider looking at Zach Wilson as an option to come in and see if they can rehabilitate him. So he probably will get more significant action in the next preseason game, but I kind of feel like this was a missed opportunity for the New York Jets to really give Zach Wilson some meaningful reps to improve and develop, man. Like, you only threw him out there for what, 2-3 series? Seriously? Like, Zach Wilson, I thought was at least going to get the whole first quarter and then half of the second quarter. You feel me? Because, I mean, this dude is kind of viewed as a bust right now. So he should be getting all the opportunities he can get of getting meaningful in-game reps, rather if it's the preseason or an exhibition game or a scrimmage, like whenever the New York Jets play some football and it's 11-on-11 and it kind of simulates a Sunday Phil, Zach Wilson should be in there getting meaningful playing time in a lot of it because he needs it. He needs to get better, and the only way Zach Wilson's going to get better is by playing more football. So I didn't understand why the New York Jets didn't have him in action for a lot longer. I mean, Chris Trevler, the guy who came in last in the end of game to close it out, he replaced Zach Wilson at one point last season. I mean, bro, like, you don't really need to see anything out of your third string QB. Like, yeah, you want to give them a little bit of reps, but Zach Wilson should have gotten way more playing time, man. This is somebody who you invested a top 5 pick in. You need to see what you got in that, man. If I was Robert Saleh, I would have had Zach Wilson playing for at least the first quarter and a half because he's a bust. At least at this moment, we need to see what we got in him, man. So him playing for the plays that he was in for disappointed me. I wanted to see a little bit more, which is why I'm not all that blown away by his performance because it was a small sample size. You just gave us a free sample, fam. You pretty much went to the mall, you got us a small thing of chocolate, and you said, hey, you want a taste? And you gave us a taste, and you was kind of teasing us, bruh. Like, after he made that big throw and Aaron Rodgers was on the sideline going crazy, bro, like, he should have stayed in the game longer. He should have showed that he could do it more consistently, man. But these are my NFL Hall of Fame game takeaways. Let me know some takeaways and reactions that you guys have to this game down in the comment section down below.